So coming to top management and follow up. So actually till echocardiography कल तक हो गया सर. So आज the management part. ठीक है. So coming to first medical management, the most of the top management is surgical management only. So the medical management is limited to patients who have a hyperacute cyanotic spells, and for the medical management and for the prophylaxis also. So basically, this medical management can be a life saving, and those who develop a heart failure in patients with TOP, so they can benefit from pharmacotherapy, and by calorie supplementation with the natural tube also we can help the baby to gain weight and further corrective surgery. So infants who develop gradual but consistent worsening of cyanosis, they rarely respond to medical therapy, and for this because that is due to increasing right and outward tract obstruction. So for these patients they will have to go for the surgery. Itself. So in contrast, infants who develop hypercyanotic spells usually do not respond to medical therapy, but do respond to medical therapy, both acute and treatment and prophylaxis. So even if a patient has a single hypercyanotic spell, so many would consider to do surgery in these case of patients. So we studied about the physiology of the hypersonic spells. That is increase acute imbalance between the systemic and the pulmonary blood flow due to the vicious changes in the inotropy, secondary to endogenous category release. So leading to increased systemic oxygen consumption, reduced systemic vessel resistance, reduced RV preload due to increased heart rate. So the main aim of the medical therapy is to address these imbalances and decrease the pain and anxiety, so thereby to reduce the heart rate and the systemic oxygen consumption, and increase the vascular resistance and increase the pulmonary blood flow. So most of the cyanotic spells are usually provocated by the crying of the baby. So immediately when a baby cries, he should be picked up and should be try to comfort the baby. And even if after that the patient, and we should flex the knees and hips of the baby so that to king the femoral arteries. So thereby increase the peripheral vascular resistance and thereby decreasing the right to left shunt. And even after that is no improvement, then we should administer oxygen to these patients. And even after there is no improvement, we can give intravenous bolus of crystalloid or colloid fluid to increase the intravascular volume, so that we maximize the preload and increase the cardiac output. After that, if a patient is agitated and in pain, so we can use intravenous or intramuscular morphine at the dose of 0.1 to 0.2 milligram per kg. And this reduces the pain and anxiety also, and also lowers the endogenous catecholamine release and reduces the heart rate and lower the respiratory rate also. Apart from that, we can also try propranolol at the dose of 0.05 to 0.02 milligram per kg, or a shorter acting one like Espanol also at a dose of 0.5 milligram per kg, given over 1 minute, and thereafter continue as an infusion. So what do beta receptors do is they lower the heart rate, they improve the diastolic billing, and increase the preload, and acutely increase the systemic resistance by blocking beta 2 receptors. So if still the acidosis worsens, then we can consider giving intravenous sodium bicarbonate at the dose of 1 milligram, 1 milliequivalent per kg. So in case of unlimited cases, so then we can give direct vasoconstrictors like phenylephrine or norepinephrine. Phenylephrine at a dose of 0.005 to 0.001 milligram per kg, and norepinephrine at a dose of 0.05 to 1 milligram per kg per minute. Severe cases, patient should be anesthetized and should be intubated and kept in ventilator support. So this will decrease the work of breathing and reduce oxygen consumption and improve the mixed weakness of oxygen content. Very occasionally, these cyanotic spells can be life-threatening and may require emergent surgical intervention or mechanical support. So most of these spells are self-limiting and do not require any intensive medical therapy. So many group consider once the patient had onset of cyanotic spell, consider is an indication for surgical correction. So till the time of surgical correction, the patient can give a prophylactic dose of beta blockers, that is oral dose of propranolol, given at 0.25 to 1 milligram per kg at 2 to 3 times per day. Coming to percutaneous palliation, so what we can do is percutaneous palliation. Patient
The order in which you have given the medicines, na, that is very important actually. So whenever this is the right order to give the medicine. First, you have to console the child, position the child, then, if possible, sedate the child. The first medicine which is given is IV fluids. Then the drug of choice is morphine. Then comes all these things in this order.
So for percutaneous palliation, so what we do is we can get to percutaneous
Why
stent.
this particular basis is there? Because if if you don't position the child and directly poke the child, it will in itself worsen because of the pain stimulus. It will itself worsen the whole thing. The first thing is you console the child, put it in a knee arm position, do the maneuvers, give oxygen, because these are non-interventional procedures. So after this, you preferably try to put some local anesthesia or something, and then put a IV cannula, ideally. And then, why you start directly the medicine? First, you give IV fluids, because why do you give IV fluids before you give anything else?
Volume and to correct the volume. So
What is
affect
volume
the
doing? How is volume
plus
helping with the cyanotic spell?
this is a preload and increase the ventricular filling also.
It is increasing the
Plus,
ventricular filling. Suppose the patient is dehydrated, all these drugs are actually of no use. No, first you have to improve the volume status of the patient, decrease the volume. Then first drug of choice, why is it morphine? What are the benefits of morphine in a cyanotic spell?
one is to it will decrease the pain and anxiety. It will decrease the respiratory rate, which is the hyperrespiration is also the cause, and decrease the systemic increase the blood flow also.
Blood flow where?
Systemic blood flow.
So morphine is acting at many sites. No, one, as you said, central anxiety it is leaving. It is working at the central respiratory center and trying to decrease the hyperapnea which is happening. Third, it is also acting as infundibular relaxation. So these are the various sites of action of morphine. So it is
also depressing respiratory center.
Yeah, because by the respiratory center, it is actually decreasing the respiration, hyperapnea drive which is there. So that is why it is the drug of choice.
So we have to actually address all the theories of hypercyanotic spell here. Sympathetic drive we have to address, then we have to address tachycardia, we have to address hyperapnea, we have to address everything.
Preferably, one should look at the hemoglobin when they put a cannula. Try to send a VBG or try to look the so that you can look at the hemoglobin and treat the underlying cause. If you can have the underlying cause. Patient.
So percutaneous palliation. In some patients, we can do percutaneous palliation procedures like stenting of the RVOT. So this is usually used in patients who are very young and premature patients who has a severe RVOT obstruction.
Vamsi, have you mentioned all the drugs? One was morphine, second was you said beta blocker.
No, the beta blocker.
Third?
Then we have phenylephrine or norepinephrine. Then anesthesia sedation.
You said norepinephrine. Usually it is phenylephrine, na?
Phenylephrine or norepinephrine.
Mentioned both.
Both. I have mentioned both, sir.
Yeah. And soda bicam?
He mentioned.
Yes, sir. Mentioned.
So can we give adrenaline? This will increase the SVR and
vasodilatation.
Will increase
it acts on beta 2 also. So it has a vasodilatation action.
What is the harm of starting adrenaline in case of tetralogy physiology?
Beta 2 stimulation causes fall in SVR.
Adrenaline.
It acts on both alpha 1 also and beta 2 also. Alpha 1 mainly acts on
सबसे potent vasoconstrictor तो adrenaline होता है ना?
Yes.
So what is the disadvantage of using adrenaline as a vasoconstrictor in case of tetralogy? Epinephrine, why not epinephrine instead of norepinephrine? That is the question. And many of them present with failure, and because they might be having underlying anemia. Anemia can precipitate. You can start dobutamine also in these cases. So what is the harm of starting dobutamine And what is
It
the harm of
increases
starting non-adrenaline?
adrenaline and dopamine increases heart rate more than it causes increase in heart rate than
One,
vasoconstriction.
both of them are going to increase the heart rates, which are going to compromise what? Hemodynamically, what compromise would we do?
Cardiac output will be decreased.
It is going to compromise the diastolic filling. Once the
Okay.
diastolic filling gets compromised, the swell will going to get worsen because filling ही नहीं होगी. आप वॉल्यूम से तो बेसिकली फिलिंग इंप्रूव कर रहे हो ना. What else? What is the other problem? They
Sir,
act
it also
directly.
increases PVR.
PVR is never an issue in tetralogy physiology. Yesterday we had there are only two
we can alter
physiologies.
one. Yeah.
It is infundibular PS and the SVR. Two physiologies working in VSD PS physiology. So you have to talk in terms of infundibular PS and SVR for everything in top physiology. So all adrenaline and dobutamine both are going to act on the infundibulum and will increase the infundibular spasm. So dobutamine additionally is going to cause vasodilatation. So it is also going to decrease the SVR. So dobutamine is harmful unless the patient is in severe failure. Then a tinge of it just to support the heart might help with arrhythmia. But otherwise, dobutamine is never to be used. Adrenaline, the problem is although it is increasing the SVR, but it is causing infundibular spasm. It is also increasing the heart rates. So it will be counterproductive. Diastolic filling भी compromise करेगा और infundibular spasm भी बढ़ाएगा. तो antegrade flow और compromise करेगा. So adrenaline is to be avoided. Yani adrenaline, epinephrine is to be avoided. Dobutamine is to be avoided. What about milrinol? These are the common mistakes which happen in any patient who presents with tachypnea and because heart problem है तो milrinol दे दो जी. Milrinol, obviously, it is going to decrease the S. It is afterload reducing agent.
After reducing SVR will reduce
SVR को
further.
कम कर देगा, वो तो counter productive हो जाएगा. So non-epinephrine by its peripheral, by increasing the SVR is going to help, and phenylephrine, of course, we have discussed. SVR by increasing the SVR, both the things are helping. Percutaneous palliation.
Coming to different types of percutaneous palliation, one is you can do RVOT stenting across the sinuses of the right ventricular outflow tract. So thereby we increase the pulmonary blood flow and allows the growth of native pulmonary arteries. But this procedure has a complication that it destroys the native pulmonary wall, and this should be reserved only with a limited number of patients in like a very young or premature small
ये
patient.
कहाँ से लिया है?
ये Mawson Adams से है.
अच्छा, because Mawson
तो
Adams
Mawson Adams में लिखा है.
Moss and Adams पुराना हो गया है ना, so this thing has been actually taken care of. So percutaneous palliation with RVOT stenting is a very good technique because one, as you said, अगर हम transannular जाते हैं तो we can go directly for a single ventricle pathway. Top physiology में काफी सारे तो ऐसे हैं ना जो single ventricle pathway में जाएंगे. So but single ventricle pathway में RVOT में patch तो लगेगा नहीं, it will go on a single ventricle pathway. We are talking of top physiology, not
Yes,
top.
Tricuspid
ventricle में जाएंगे,
tricuspid ventricle, yeah.
जैसे tricuspid atresia VSDPS. वैसे tricuspid atresia is a case report जो अभी Gaurav is we are all writing it up. But otherwise for all single ventricle में भी AVSDPS unbalanced जो भी top की तरह present करेगा clinically, जिसमें ट्रांसफर पैच की जरूरत नहीं है उसमें RVOT स्टेंट तो कर ही सकते हैं. As you are writing कि RVOT को पैच की जरूरत पड़ सकती है. But nowadays even for top physiologies RVOT stent is being done without going transannular. मतलब transannular नहीं करते, ज़्यादातर केसेस में हम infundibulum को ही stent कर देते हैं. So that way we preserve the venulus. So this particular statement is now no more true. पहले होता था ऐसा, पर अब क्योंकि infundibular को ही tackle कर देते हैं, so now it is no more a limitation. The other procedure which is you are giving here balloon dilatation and stenting of MEPCA लिखा है. अच्छा, in certain other subset of patients we can actually just balloon the right pulmonary valve. By ballooning से ही reserve. First ballooning, second RVOT stenting. RVOT stenting can be transannular, can be without transannular. Both these procedures have been done last month only, no? एक pulmonary valve RVOT balloon किया था, एक stent किया था.
But everyone should be clear.
By chance उसने दोबारा saturation भेज दिए हैं कल ना, 80% है उसका saturation. Patient comfortable है. I was telling now 1919.
Yeah sir, yes sir. Yes, sir.
इसका saturation is 80, so I've told him
Okay.
कि अभी orbit करें.
But everyone should be clear what is the target of doing stenting or ballooning in this subset of cases. Okay.
To
What we are
increase the
planning.
growth of
Yeah.
one is
Why are we
to one
doing
is
the
to improve
planning? And why are we not
the
going for
growth of
surgery directly, Vamsi? We could have gone for
one is
surgery.
to
Ultimate plan is for
if the
surgical.
pulmonary arteries are not well developed, so by stenting and we can we improve the growth of the pulmonary arteries. Once they're developed, then we can go for the corrective surgery. One is
What
to
will what will happen if we go ahead for surgery with underdeveloped branch PA? We can
the
know.
and the
What will
RV
happen?
pressures will still remain high above the left ventricular pressure. Supersystem will
Yeah.
persist.
The lungs won't
And
be
so
able
there
to
is
handle such a pulmonary
handles
circulation.
as
There
well.
will be RV failure. So all these
And
procedures are
also
done at
the
an early age.
mortality of emergency BT shunt is 30% compared to less than 1% in a planned BT shunt.
failure.
इसमें BT shunt नहीं कर रहा सर.
No, this is
No,
also
he
one of the
for
reasons.
any palliation he is saying. For any palliation,
Any palliation,
any
okay.
palliation he is saying, and then he is saying amongst them the BT shunt has a higher morbidity and a mortality. That's why the role of percutaneous palliation came. Okay, go ahead, Vamsi.
Then another method of percutaneous palliation is if a patient has an atretic wall, then we can do radiofrequency perforation. So by that we increasing the blood flow across the pulmonary arteries and the successful growth of central pulmonary arteries. So another thing is if a patient has a non-confident pulmonary arteries, so we can shunt the PDA so that the left pulmonary artery maintains patency and the growth occurs. So after that we can go for rectal repair. And in very rare cases, we can do balloon dilatation and stenting of Mathras, and this tends to increase the pulmonary blood flow in patients with severely cyanotic patients. And at a later date, we can do corrective surgical repair by unifocalization.
So perforation of the atretic valve is also done nowadays without radio frequency. हम लोग तो without radio frequency करते हैं ना.
Yes, sir.
Do it with a coronary wire now, CTO wire. Stenting of the arterial duct is also done for confluent pulmonary arteries. PDA stenting is like a BT shunt. So we have to actually, I think, probably it is among the maximum procedures. अभी तक जो हम stenting कर रहे थे, although lately we have not done much. But otherwise, there were maximum stenting has been done in this particular place, in Max and PDA stents in North India. So stenting of PDAs can be done for non-confluent pulmonary arteries.
उसमें क्या use just to maintain permanent blood pressure.
Basically, it is like a BT shunt. Instead of a BT shunt with a going
You can do
surgical on the
PDS.
surgical table and with complications, you tend to stent the PDA so that you buy time. PDA will keep on maintaining the oxygen saturation. Once the child grows older, he will go for a total correction or he will go for a Glenn depending on the underlying subset.
So coming to the evolution of surgical repair on top, so PDation was first described as the first palliative surgery. So from systemic artery to pulmonary artery in 1945, that is from subclavian artery to ipsilateral pulmonary artery. And in Nihiro and Marco has first done repair by open heart procedure. And the surgical modality previously was 50% in late 1980s, and nowadays it was reduced to less than 2%. And the residual anatomic and hemodynamic abnormalities are nearly universal in all these patients. And repair top with considerable cardiac and non-cardiac disease burden is growing rapidly because the number of patients surviving into adult top are increasing. And these are different types of shunts which are used palliatively previously for a surgical for palliation and to initial tiding over time. So the patient is cyanotic before 3 months of age. So during that period to tide over the time, they can become different types of shunts. One is a PT shunt, which is ligation of subclavian artery to pulmonary artery. It is classically was described in 1944 and modified in 1982. And in POS shunt, it is a descending artery to left pulmonary artery. In a Davidson shunt, it is direct response of main pulmonary artery to aorta. In Watterson shunt, the ascending artery to right pulmonary artery. which is posterior to SVC. If you do it anterior to SVC, it is a Watterson Cooley stent. And aorta to pulmonary artery by using PTFE tube. One is a Melbourne, that is a direct end-to-end sinus of pulmonary artery and the ascending aorta. This is the classic BT shunt in which the N2 side anastomosis of the right subclavian artery is used. Whereas in a modified BT shunt, we do side to side anastomosis with using the BTFE tube.
So the implication is if somebody has, you're still talking of last one. Okay.
We don't use any posting method in classical and we use PTFE in modified one. The dissection is more common in classical one compared to modified. And the subclavian artery is sacrificed in classical, but it is preserved in modified one. Subclavian artery is sacrificed, there is upper limb ischemia, and anastomosis is usually done opposite to the arch side of the arch. This can be done on the inside, and the takedown is challenging in classical one, and it is easy in modified one. And shunt blockage is less common, and it is more common in modified one. So this classical one can have the growth potential, whereas the tube doesn't have any growth. So what are the indications for?
So the main thing is nowadays it is difficult that you find a patient, but there will be some patient who grown ups in case some medical college has this patient with a classical BT shunt. So the difference is that you will not going to feel the pulse on the side of the shunt. So remember to feel the upper limb pulses. So one of the causes where you will not feel the pulse on the side of the shunt is a classical BT shunt.
So the cyanotic congenital heart diseases which are not fit for intracardiac repair with severe symptoms, we can do BT shunt or talk with the pulmonary atresia initially as a palliative procedure, or talk with unresolved spell or age less than 6 months with a low birth weight or failure to thrive or repeated spells, or in a hyperplastic pulmonary arteries so that to improve the growth of pulmonary arteries, and undeveloped LV, that is EF less than 60% normal, and undergrowth mitral illness, that is less than 2 standard deviations. And in some institutions, they perform before performing the ICR, they usually do BT shunt as a palliative, and after the stage procedure, they do the ICR. Previously, it was done in olden days. So, modified BT shunt is usually preferred on the same side and is longer length of the subclavian artery is available, and there is less chance to damage the rectal larynx nerve. So the approach is usually right or left thoracotomy. If you use the median stenotomy, there can be significant desaturation by using cardiopulmonary bypass, or there can be adhesions while doing redo surgery. And the size of the graft depends upon the weight of the patient. So it mainly depends upon the size of the subclavian artery. Basing on the weight of the patient, it is 2 to 4 kg is 3.5, 4 to 5 is 4, and more than 5 kg is 5 mm.
See, what all surgeries you can do through thoracotomy?
The mitral valve surgical.
You get a patient in the exam with a thoracotomy scar.
BT shunt तो कर सकते हैं, दूसरी mitral valve वाटर भी करते हैं.
Okay. Or Mohit.
Sir, we can do a hello. Are you?
You are audible.
We can do a PDA ligation. We can do a BT shunt. Then we can do a CMV. Then we can do unifocalization. Then we can do quad repair.
Yeah.
That's
So coming to complete surgical repair.
What are the complications of BT shunt? You have not mentioned. Yeah. There is one important long-term complication of BT shunt. It is perigraft seroma. Another are thrombosis, aneurysm, hematoma.
local site complications.
And yeah. And what other shunts do you know of apart from BT shunt?
Nikan has a port shunt with a water shunt and this then you have
What is port
Davidson.
shunt? What is water?
He explained.
अच्छा अच्छा ओके अच्छा मैं चला गया था इसके ठीक है
The complete surgical repair. So previously in ordinance, the top repair was performed via either a longitudinal or transverse incision of the right ventricle. So through the hypertrophied subpulmonary musculature was restricted and the valvular pulmonary stenosis was relieved. The patient with insufficiently sized pulmonary annulus were managed by extending the ventriculotomy across the wall into the main pulmonary artery so that the pericardial patch could be used to augment the output tract. And where necessary, the pulmonary arteries also, this patch can be applied. So these transcranial patches are provided complete relief of outflow obstruction, but at a cost of destroying the competency of the pulmonary wall defects, leading to pulmonary leakage in the future. And VST was closed in via ventriculotomy after reconstruction of the outflow tract. So during 1960s, the most centers were done full repair of lung at the age of 4 to 6 years of age. So till then they used to do palliative surgery like a BT shunt. But in 1962 in London, in Christ Hospital, the first time they have done full surgical repair at the age of less than 1 year. And they have said that the remarkable survival was reported by using a deep hypothermic circulatory arrest. So after this, they have seen that during the stage of palliation and who has done complete repair of 50% of if the patients who require shunt before BT shunting before 4 months of age, so the patient will discharge survival discharge will be 50%. Whereas if a patient requires shunt after between 4 months to 2 years of age, so the 85% of patients will survive into adulthood. Sorry, till the time of discharge. So after changing strategy to complete repair either by rather than palliative shunting, the mortality in first 25 children aged under 25 years at the time of the repair was only 4%.
Vamsi, what saturation you expect after doing a BT shunt? Or you are targeting?
85 to 90%.
It's around 75 to 85.
yeah, anything over 80% is good.
Okay, go ahead.
So the early primary repair for all patients would not only avoid risk of associated with the shunt procedure, but might also reduce the right ventricular hypertrophy and promote pulmonary blood vessel growth. So the most of the centers now do corrective surgery at the age of between 3 to 12 months of age. So the patient who become symptomatic earlier than 3 months. So in those patients, there have been two schools of thought. So in some groups, they say that it's better to go for complete repair in all patients, regardless of the age at which they develop symptoms. And this will have been avoid benefits in avoiding a shunt, which includes promotion of pulmonary artery growth and eliminates chronic hypoxemia and reduce the extensive artery muscle resection. And in some other groups, they say that if your patient has a cardiopulmonary bypass and a hypothermic circulatory arrest, they have a neurological effect due to immature brain. And there can be a possible increase in terms of transangular patching when operating on a very small young baby. And they say that it's better to continue for a staged approach for very young symptomatic infants, and after that do a later full repair. During the earlier share of top repair, it was noted that residual VSTs and pulmonary stenosis were predictors of post-surgical mortality as the main cause of reoperation. So because of that, their surgeons mainly aim for to completely eliminate the REO obstruction in these patients. So they used to apply transcranial patches liberally. But in 1963, Middlesbrough et al. Was the first one to suggest the trans-atrial approach. So in this, what happens is they do an atriotomy and the exposure of the VST by cutting the this detachment, central leaflet of the tricuspid valve, and they expose the pulmonary infundibulum. And they do the total correction without the risk of coronary artery division, and there is no need for ventricular cut, and there is no need of external enlargement of RVOT. So initially it was not that much popularized, but later in during 90, Edgeworth has done in 1976, and after in late 80s it has been popularized because they have understood the long-term effects of ventriculotomy, and destruction of pulmonary wall has a long-term mal effects in adult patients with TOP. So now this approach is used by transatrial approach is used. So in early 1990s, most centers performed TOP repair by a transatrial and transpulmonary approach with transannular patching is provided whenever possible. Coming to surgical outcomes, the patients of child born with
What are the Indian guidelines? At what age, in what weight you would like to do surgery? What kind of modality will you choose?
surgical cardiac repair, sir.
Yeah, hello?
Intracardiac repair.
No. And what I'm saying is, at what age will you take the patient for total repair, and what age you will go for a AP shunt?
3 months to 12 years.
So this is what Moss and Adams says, the Indian guidelines, it is 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. So anybody who is less than 6 months, our guidelines say that you should go for a AP shunt, and above 6 months we can go for surgical repair. 6 to 12.
Whenever you are asked, no, in this exam also, what is the appropriate age to tetralogy surgery? The answer should be that as Mohit is saying, as per the guidelines, the age has been put at 6 months, but right at the time of diagnosis, the surgical team needs to be involved in the care of the patient, and as per the comfort of the patient, the surgery can be offered whenever surgery can be offered at any age as per the comfort of the patient. Now that the surgery is being done at even the total correction is being done at birth also. So at
Neonates also. Yeah.
neonates also the total correction is being done. So actually it can be offered as per the comfort of the surgeon. But definitely if the saturation has begun to fall and the patient is having repeated spells, then patient will require early intervention. This early intervention can be a BT shunt, can be a total correction.
So coming to follow-up.
And what if a patient has a coronary anomaly? If there is a LAD arising from the RCC and crossing RVOT, then?
Yeah, that is a favorite question.
Then we don't do is RV dilatation नहीं करेंगे या RV to PA conduit नहीं करेंगे.
Conduit नहीं करेंगे.
Conduit नहीं
करेंगे
करेंगे.
ही conduit यार. RV to PA conduit ही तो करेंगे.
Sorry.
What are the ways that if there is a coronary artery which is crossing the annulus, that means you cannot put the transannular patch. What are the ways it can be tackled? What are the ways the surgeon can tackle it? Enumerate.
One is RV to PA conduit लगाएंगे सर. और ये we can you do MAPCAS का shunting कर सकते हैं to maintain the pulmonary blood flow.
MAPCAS के BT shunt या
BT shunt कोई भी shunting
कर सकते हैं. Palliative procedure. What else? Then there is called underlay technique. There is called overlay patch.
Overlay technique. Yeah.
Okay. That is called the double barrel technique. दो outflows बनाए.
Double barrel approach, yeah.
Double barrel approach, underlay patch technique, overlay patch technique, eludes, palliative procedures like BT shunt, RVOT stenting, if possible, or RVOT ballooning, or if nothing is possible, maybe improve the saturation by MAPCAS. So these are the ways it are tackled.
And for a double barrel approach, the patient should be more than 2 years of age or more than 10 kgs of weight.
वो भी अभी नहीं रहा है actually. Why they said so? Because sorry, क्या चीज?
Indian guideline में.
हाँ वो बता रहा हूँ अभी as per the comfort of the surgeon. मैं जब ट्रंकस में कंड्यूट लगा सकते हैं तो सेकंड बैरल बनाने में तो
क्या ही
as per the comfort of the patient.
Yeah.
Now the word which has to be used in exam is as per the surgical team needs to be involved and as per the comfort of the patient surgery can be offered, but these are the ways. Okay, let's continue.
So the coming to surgical outcomes, if a patient, if a child has born with dog, so we can counsel the patient, the parents say that it can be repaired within 6 months of life, and there is a 96% chance of survival after to hospital discharge. And those surviving infants, so 90% of them will be alive till 30 years of age, and out of which 5% may require further reoperation childhood, and 6% may require further catheter intervention. And the most common one is pulmonary valve replacement, which is in late follow-up studies, which is shown that there is a 0.8% risk per year who are requiring pulmonary valve replacement. And most of these cases are patients with a top with pulmonary atresia or top with pulmonary abscess. So although the top is now associated with a little short-term or medium-term mortality, the long-term survival is not equal to general population. So if a 30-year-old population, a 30-year-old with a top has a annual risk of 0.5%, whereas in a general population, for a male it is 0.15% and female is 0.606%. So the top patient has a threefold higher in case of males. So in case of males, and 8 times higher in case of females. A patient who has top and compared to general population, and this mortality usually increases with the increasing age. So the most recent data suggests that annual mortality risk for patient with top increases by 0.1% per decade. So the reason that patient with top experience increasing adverse outcomes with age is the presence of slowly evolving post-operative pathophysiology, which although it is remains uncompletely understood, some they say that due to pulmonary valve regurgitation, it is ventricular dilatation, RV failure, and RVV leading to ventricular and atrial arrhythmias. Multiple causes. We'll discuss it later. Coming to surgery for tetralogy with pulmonary atresia. So in some patients, we can do complete repair itself in the first few days of life. But most of the time, we do is unifocal. We do stage surgery. So we can do initial catheter-based intervention like all surgeries. We can do initial stenting, palliative stenting, or RA to PA conduit initially. So depending, then we can go for electrosurgery later. So depending upon clinical presentation, if the patient has a less pulmonary blood flow, we can augment the pulmonary blood flow by using systemic PA shunts. Whereas if a patient has a high pulmonary blood flow, we can reduce them by introducing the unnecessary MAPRAs. So this palliative procedure help to include, these include this either stenting of RVOT or surgical right ventricular outflow reconstruction. So these are both helps in growth of central pulmonary artery. So the most surgical one we have to use RV to be a conduit, and we can do unipopulation procedure also. So this involve the disconnecting of MAPRAs from their aortic origins, and so that they can be positioned in the vicinity of the heart or at the central compliance for final connection to RV later on a later date. So the connections between non-communicating segments are created, and a single source of flow is provided to the unifocus lung. So these unifocals are designed to incorporate maximum number of pulmonary segments to eventual right ventricular outflow reconstruction. So the ultimate goal of such reconstruction is to complete repair, defined as a closure of all septal defects and the interruption of all extracardiac sources of pulmonary artery blood flow, and the incorporation of at least 14 pulmonary artery segments in connection to right ventricle. So additionally, the central pulmonary artery size should be at least 50% of the normal size, and at the end of the operation, right ventricular pressure should be less than 70% of than LV. If it is higher than this, so we can do VSC penetration. So historically, a staged reconstructive surgical approach was applied in patients who did not have criteria for complete repair at presentation. So this involves a lateral thoracotomy, which is done for unipopulation procedures to deal with the significant adverse abnormalities of the pulmonary arteries, and to create a single central arterial source for each lung. So if these operations were successful, the two reconstructed central pulmonary arteries were connected, and the complete repair was performed at a later date. So there was a study conducted by Cho et al. So they have a study conducted in 495 patients, and they are treated patients with first initially by palliative surgery, and then they have done intracardiac repair and later date. So 165 patients had a preliminary surgical strategy, including systemic PA shunts and a right ventricle reconstruction and other unipopulation procedures. So the presence of MAPCA was associated with significant factor associated with late mortality. So the most patients, that is 68% of patients, eventually underwent complete repair. And at the time of the age at the time of repair is ranged from 1 day to 54.6 years. And the surgical mortality was 4.5%. And 24 patients had a repair during the first year of life. And in these 24 patients, there were 2 surgical deaths, that is 8.3%. So at the end of the operation, the systolic pressure of right ventricle to left ventricle was usually 0.68 with a standard deviation of 0.18. And VST was in patient who had in which right ventricle pressure is more than 0.85. So the VST was reopened. So it was done in 22 patients. So it is the survival rate in this study, which is in this study. So at the age of by 10 years, around 73% of patients survive up to 10 years of age, and up to 20 years of age, 60% of patients survive by patients who undergo initial palliative surgery and then intercardiac at a later date. So there is another method which McKinney and Reddy has proposed an alternative single-stage unipopulation or complete repair approach for a previously unoperated. So for a previously unoperated patients with pulmonary atresia and so they use a median sternotomy and cardiopulmonary bypass, both the right and left pulmonary arteries, and MAPCAs are unipocular directed to right ventricular output tract. And a valve conduct is used to reconstruct the athletic right ventricular output tract. So, other than Malhotra and Hanley, they reported that the complete unipopulation could be accomplished in 76% of 464 patients managed in this way, and the immediate closure of VST was possible in 56% of their patients. And over the time, VST closure was performed in 90% of the initial cohort. That is within 5 years of the single stage operation. So the overall surgical mortality in this series was 5.9%, and the right ventricle to left ventricle systolic pressure after the VSD closure was less than 50% in over 2/3 of cases, with stable early follow-up, that is at the mean follow-up of 7 years. So the earlier interventions inherent to more aggressive approach may reduce the occurrence of the segmental pulmonary vascular disease and progressive loss of segmental pulmonary arteries. So, however, the longer duration of follow-up is needed to ascertain these benefits. The reassurance of both the reconstructed pulmonary artery and RV outflow continue to pose late problems for these patients, regardless of the initial surgical approach. Coming to post-operative pathophysiology.
Have you discussed all the ratios, Vamsi?
No, he hasn't.
How will you assess for the adequacy of PSIs?
More than 50% of the concerned, depending upon the age and body surface area. So it should be at least more than 50% of the particular age and body surface area.
More than
So how is
50%.
it decided? There is. Do you know of some ratios or indexes? What is McGoon ratio?
This is a very important question actually. On one slide, you should actually write what are the ways that pulmonary arteries are assessed. You should know McGoon's ratio, Nakata index.
Nakata index, Knight index. So I will tell you in a brief what is McGoon index is. Diameter of RPA plus diameter of LPA divided by size of descending thoracic aorta at the level of diaphragm. Normally it is 2 to 2.5, and anything which is above 1.2 we consider adequate for intracardiac repair. Okay. Second is Nakata's index. So here you have to instead of diameter you have to take area, and this is taken by angiogram, cine angiogram. So you again the area of RPA plus area of LPA divided by area of descending thoracic aorta. And if this index is less than 60%, it is a marker of poor prognosis. Normal is 330 and it should be more than 100 for ICR. Third is NITO index. Here we see for LV end diastolic volume. If it is less than 30 ml, then 30 ml per meter square, it is inadequate. And the patient should undergo palliative wear. And there is one more thing, वो मुझे पढ़ना पड़ेगा. There is some Blackstone formula. गौरव सर बताइए.
कौन सा फॉर्मूला?
Blackstone formula.
I haven't read.
इसमें they actually इसमें क्या करते हैं? They measure diameters of RPA and LPA and pulmonary valve annulus. And then they normalize for descending Thurber. Again, it should be more than 1.5. ऐसा कुछ है. Also, you have not told us Kirkland index. वो भी एक extension है.
नकाता में बॉडी सरफेस एरिया है डिनोमिनेटर में.
What is the method we use, no? What are the charts? There are standardized charts available for measuring the pulmonary arteries, as we use in our OPD also, no?
Yes, sir.
So you must enlist एक slide में
Rowlett table तो सर्जन वाली है.
एक वो Z-score वाली भी तो है सर.
नहीं, V
So in one slide you must make all this and share it after the presentation, no? So let's continue.
So the coming to post-op to pathophysiology. So basically, surgical correction top is not a complete cure. So this will even the patient with a repaired top, they have an anatomical, physiological, and abnormalities. So the anatomical attacks can be incomplete relief of right ventricular obstruction, or there can be residual VSTs, or there can be tricuspid regurgitation, or RVOT aneurysms. And the physiological there can be pulmonary insufficiency. Probably it is the most important physiological disturbance. So because of this, there can be persistent cyanosis and electrical problems may stem because of the RVB which develop in future, or they can be due to patchy ventral fibrosis which lead to VT in future. So adults with repaired top demonstrate high frequency of exercise impairment and small but increasing risk of arrhythmias, biventral dysfunction, and premature cardiac death. So the pulmonary regurgitation and the fate of right ventricle. So the pulmonary regurgitation is the most common sequelae of death, and it is severe, most likely severe in patients with a transcranial patch. So the unfortunately, pulmonary regurgitation tends to increase with time and place a volume overload on the right ventricle, and this exacerbated whether if there is any distal artery convergence, this pulmonary insufficiency is more exaggerated. So what happens to RV is if due to chronic volume overload, the RV will start adaptive remodeling, which is initially compensatory, but ultimately it is proved as a detrimental. So in case of chronic PR, there will be compensatory RV dilatation and hypertrophy to maintain the forward flow and to maintain the ventricular wall stress. So the RV dilatation initially is associated with the reduced reduction of RV extraction and stroke volume. Reduction RV extraction, the stroke volume is maintained. And so that the patient experiences a long preclinical compensatory phase during which they rarely report symptoms. So even but nevertheless, if we do common testing in these patients, so they reveal impaired exercise capacity and neurohormonal activation correlates with right ventricle volumes. So ultimately RV compensatory adaptation becomes inadequate, and top patients with a severe PR begin to develop RV contractile dysfunction. Thus RV dysfunction sets in. So the pathophysiological progression can be exacerbated by coexisting abnormalities, like for example, patient has a tricuspid regurgitation along with RV with pulmonary incompetence. So this is usually seen in 30% of patients. So this leads to more RV dilatation. The more RV dilatation leads to more TR. So it's a vicious cycle. So for a period of time, the RV dysfunction remains reversible, and if you do intervention like pulmonary valve replacement, so it will come back to the normal previous volume levels. But if it is for a chronic PR and if the RV volumes enlarges and have an RV dysfunction sets, there is a chance of the coming back to normal state is less, because by that time the permanent myocardial injury endures. So in those patients, there can be an overt RV failure and increased risk of ventral arrhythmias and sudden cardiac death.
How many % of patients have sudden cardiac death post rectal top?
Do you have any objective criteria to predict it?
होने से फोटो हम करेंगे सर.
Are you will you be talking about Gina's criteria or not?
ये सर तो मौसम के दिया नहीं सर.
But you read Taljiva. Okay, Taljiva articles are must.
Ramsey, Moss and Dumps में दिया हुआ है, but the chapter is different. It is in the end of the book when
Adolescent and CHD.
adolescent CHDs
Yeah.
में tetralogies के follow up दिया हुआ है, उसमें वहाँ ये सारा हुआ है और RV वगैरह. Basically we want अभी कितने slides बची है? Basically the intention of this class was immediately tetralogy का patient आ जाएगा तो how to assess. उसमें pulmonary artery assessment is most important. वो उसका table please make it and share it. And the place where pulmonary arteries are measured is where do you measure the pulmonary arteries whenever you measure? Branch PS को कहाँ measure करते हैं? Site. One is
Sir,
the annulus
after the first branch.
at the first branch.
Before.
That is the hilum.
Just before. Yeah.
The reason being उस जहाँ ब्रांचिंग हो जाएगी सर्जन उसके बियॉन्ड लंग्स के अंदर नहीं जा पाएगा, तो वहां तक वो पैच कर सकता है. तो अगर वहां आर्टरीज अच्छी है, साइज अच्छा है, तो ही कैन इजीली टैकल. उससे पहले अच्छे मतलब अगर खराब भी है तो ही कैन पुट अ पैच एंड टैकल. You measure the annulus at the hinge point. You measure the branch pulmonary artery at the hilum. By definition, hilum is wherever the first branch takes off. So this is.
दूसरा Vamsi, you will be asked very ऐसे ये दो क्वेश्चन तो पूछने वाले हैं टॉप में. One, you have to enumerate all long term complications following surgery, and second is indication of PVR.
सर PVR अच्छा वो
Indication of
बताऊंगा.
pulmonary valve replacement.
वो तो बताऊंगा सर आगे. एक्चुअली गाइडलाइंस है, अच्छा गाइडेंस है, वो बताऊंगा.
लॉन्ग टर्म सारी enumerate कर दे. एक तूने बता दिया
सर
PVR.
वो अभी एक आएगा. सर अभी तो PR है, वेंट्रल फाइब्रोसिस है,
अच्छा ठीक है.
आगे आएगा.
Okay.
So this is the pathophysiology. So the patient with the born with top or patient with the top with pulmonary atresia or top with the interventional defect. So we can in this patient we can do complete surgical repair, or we can initially we do cardiac surgery with like water shunt or portion or petition, and then we can go for surgical repair in future. So after surgical repair, the ideal surgical outcome. So there should be no residual right ventricular obstruction. There should be no disruption to pulmonary wall, and there will be no residual VSD. So leading there will be no PR and there will be no compensation changes in the right ventricle. The less favorable outcomes is one is disruption of pulmonary wall. So there is early right ventricular outflow obstruction. So all this can lead to severe PR and maladaptive compensated mechanisms. What are the maladaptive mechanisms are? One is there is RV dilatation leading to RV endosteric volume increase, and in future this leads to RV dysfunction and it leads to right ventricular decrease in RV, right ventricular ejection fraction. So this RV dysfunction will leads to neurohormonal activation, and due to the surgery also it can ventricular fibrosis occurs, and there is been electrical disturbance. Electrical disturbance either due to RVV itself or it can be due to progressive right ventricular dilatation. So there will be change in QRS duration. If QRS duration more than 180 milliseconds, it will further leads to future mechanical dysynchrony, and also there is a high chance of arrhythmias. So on this ventricular fibrosis, this electrical disturbance leading to mechanical dysynchrony, the neurohormonal activation, all will future leads to LV dysfunction also. So because of this electrical disturbance, there can be an atrial arrhythmias or ventricular arrhythmias or a sudden cardiac death. Due to LV dysfunction, there can be clinical heart failure, and due to RV failure, there can be impaired exercise capacity. To ventricular fibrosis, the ventricular fibrosis in top is usually linked to the extent of fibrosis. This fibrosis is usually linked to the late complication like arrhythmias or the systolic dysfunction and exercise intolerance and neurohormonal activation. So the most of the patients with top will have RVOT fibrosis. Whether the patient may have underwent transcendental patch or not, they may usually have RVOT fibrosis. So this correlates with both the regional and the global accounts of RV function. So and over half the patient may have patchy LV fibrosis also. Sometimes this will correlate to the apical vent where we use for cardiopulmonary bypass. And this fibrosis is more in patients with who are underwent corrective surgery at older ages. And the studies which is done with the MRI T1 mapping techniques, it is industry showed a significant increase in left ventricular fibrosis also. Not only RV but LV fibrosis also, of course. So the extent to which ongoing pathology that is severe pulmonary incumbents influence the development of post-operative fibrosis, and how it is under the treatment is not known. But there is no effective treatment is fibrosis. Coming to mechanical and electrical interactions, if a patient who has a chronic PR, so they it can also cause electrical corrosion. By it is also usually related with RV dilatation and QRS prolongation. So these two go hand in hand, and the QRS duration is an important predictor of adverse outcome in late top repair. So they found that if your QRS duration is more than 1 millisecond, 180 seconds, so it is a sensitive and specific predictor for the late symptomatic ventricular tachycardia and or sudden cardiac death. So the patient with the QRS duration of more than 180 seconds and the increased cardiac ratio, that is an surrogate marker for RV size, that is RV dilatation, and increase the longitudinal RV dimensions, whereas those without PR consistently demonstrated QRS duration of less than 180 milliseconds. So the increased CT ratio with QRS duration prolongation and requirement for the tricuspid annuloplasty were associated with adverse outcomes, and both QRS duration more than 180 milliseconds and data for QRS duration progression is more than 5 milliseconds over a period of 10 years were predictive of sudden cardiac death. So because of these studies, the change now they are considered QRS prolongation also as a one of the feature for one of the indication for pulmonary valve replacement. However, these studies are followed patients prepared in an earlier era. That is, 91% of the patients who are in the study had a right ventriculotomy, and did not include MRI quantification either to size the RV or pulmonary regurgitation. So how much these thresholds are correlated with the newer techniques of surgery, with that is those who did not have ventriculotomy, there is no contemporary studies at present, so they require further study. Coming to right ventricular diastole dysfunction, so they have observed that in some patients who has a near absence of pulmonary valve issue, so there is a even the pulmonary ejection walls remain low, and RVs don't dilate during the years during post-op. Even in the absence of pulmonary tissue, or even having a they don't have much pulmonary regurgitation, and don't have much RV dilation in the future. So this is explained by the phenomenon called restrictive RV physiology. So what they have done is in a study conducted by Canada, so they have identified a group of infants in which post-operative RV dilation dysfunction set apart whether more difficult to post-operative course and a set of echocardial findings. So what they observed is they have seen in some infants there's a pulse wave Doppler echocardiography. They have seen that there is a flow, anterior flow in the pulmonary artery during the atrial systole. So this is and this anterior flow is usually augmented during expiratory phase of posterior ventilation. So why this anterior flow occurs is when atria contract, the pressure wave and dead flow are transported directly to the pulmonary artery because the resistance of the pulmonary flow is less than the resistance of the RV stretch. So the shape RV resists not only the filling through the tricuspid, but also filling from a pulmonary resuscitation also. So critically limiting the RV volume and lowering RV volume and its subsequent RV diet. So the restrictive RV physiology is disadvantage in early postoperative period because the weaning of is difficult and it causes low cardiac output, but it may be protected in long term because the volume PR volume will be decreased and RV dilation will be decreased. So the RV failure will be RV systolic failure will be less, and the QRS duration will not increase, which is a strong predictor for sudden cardiac death. So it is suspected to rate that inadequate intraoperative RV myocardial production, such as inadequate patient with inadequate RV myocardial production, such patient exhibit restriction to RV late diastolic cooling as a consequence of reduced RV compliance. Then atrial contract, the pressure wave and blood are transmitted directly to pulmonary artery. So there was a study conducted by Gattuso et al. So demonstrated that the adult TOP patient with restrictive physiology have a smaller CT ratio and improved exercise capacity and a shorter QRS duration than those without a RV restriction. So there was another study done by Hebbing et al. So they showed that the patient with the restrictive physiology have reduced rather than improved exercise tolerance. That is opposite to what he said. And there's one more study which is called Epis et al., which was first found that there is no much difference between the patient with restrictive and non-restrictive groups. So there are different theories. One is he says that there will be increased exercise tolerance if we have a restrictive physiology. So the other study states that there's a no no improvement in exercise tolerance. And other studies says that there is no significant difference between the restrictive and non-restrictive RV volumes. So the differences may be due to because the methodologies which is used to determine the RV restriction may explain these differences. So that's why the instance of RV dysfunction that is restrictive physiology in patients with undergoing TOP can vary from 28% to 67%, depending upon the method of the methodology, how they measure the restriction. Depending on that, so these will differ. Coming to the role of pulmonary valve replacement. So the pulmonary valve replacement is one of the most common procedure in adults with congenital heart disease with the risk of operative mortality generally around 1%. So even if in today's days the anatomy is usually suitable and usually we do percutaneous techniques for the pulmonary valve replacement rather than surgical opening. And these percutaneous techniques are usually reserved for RV, PA conduit, and or surgical technique is usually reserved for patients who has a RV to PA conduit or previous standing of the RV working. When the long-term adverse influence of the chronic pulmonary regurgitation, the insertion of a competent pulmonary valve is clearly an attractive option. However, there is no valve which has an impaired lifespan, so they may develop PANS in future and leads to further obstruction also. So it is fairly clear that pulmonary valve regurgitation improves the exercise tolerance and symptoms in patients with pulmonary regurgitation after TOP repair. But there is no definitive data to show whether pulmonary PVR also will thoroughly modify the late clinical outcomes. So for this reason, the most centers recommend pulmonary replacement of TOP patients complaining of symptoms related to hemodynamic load, and criteria is different for symptomatic patients. So I will discuss the guidelines for pulmonary replacement later in the last minute.
Just tell us the indication.
Sir?
Just tell us the indication.
Basically, we see if there is a RV failure or not, number one. If there is a RV failure, then we can see what is the severity of
First of all, always we will see whether patient is symptomatic or asymptomatic. Okay. If patient is symptomatic, then we have to do it.
So, okay, I'll show this one, sir. Patient with a TOP with PR. So then we can see we see other decreased RV or RF systolic dysfunction. If there is yes, then patient should be managed by the adult congenital heart disease expert. That is class and indication. If there is no RV dysfunction, then we look at for severity of PR. If there is a mild PR, we should do nothing. We should just follow up the patient. If we have a moderate to severe PR, then we look for symptoms. If there is a symptom, there is a class and indication for pulmonary valve replacement. If there are no symptoms, then we look for any two of the following. One is mild to moderate RV dysfunction or LV dysfunction, or RV dilatation, that is RV end diastolic volume more than 180 ml per meter square, or RVSP due to RV obstruction, that is more than 20% of the more than equal 20% systolic pressure, or progressive reduction in
160.
Sir?
RVETV is 160 ना, 180 नहीं है, 160.
160 190 मैं आगे एक बार बता दूँ, वो आगे आएगा. So if any of the two is present, so then we can go for pulmonary valve replacement. So that is class 2 indication. If nothing is present, then we look if the patient has having such kind of tachyarrhythmias, then we can go for pulmonary valve replacement. That is class 2B indication. And if there is no such kind of arrhythmias also, then if there is a patient having any such other surgical indications, so then along with that surgical procedure, we can do pulmonary valve replacement. That is also class 2B. If none of them is present, then we should only follow up the patient. So the key
एक है ना
considerations.
जीवा एटॉन क्राइटेरिया भी पढ़ना है, ठीक है, जो सर ने बताया ना गौरव सर ने, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि
I'll post that article in the group. I'll send that article in the group so that everyone can read.
They have also given a special consideration apart from asymptomatic.
Pre-pregnancy, yeah, pre-pregnancy and
pre-pregnancy. If there is a top repair with at age of more than 3 years.
More than 3 years. Yeah. Vamsi, let's take a scenario. A 10-year-old child comes to your OPD who underwent a total ICR at 2 years of age with a trans RA VSD closure, with infundibular resection and a transannular patch, and with a LPA-plasty. Okay. How will you approach that child? What all things will you do? And how are you planning to follow up that child?
With LPA-plasty.
Trans RA VSD closure. Okay. And infundibular resection, transannular patch with a LPA-plasty for LPA stenosis with house full.
So everything is repaired.
First we do.
He underwent repair at 2 years of age. Now he is coming at 10 years of age to you.
First we ask any symptoms are not. पहले सबसे पहले पूछेंगे symptoms है या नहीं है. If it is asymptomatic, then we go for echocardiogram.
क्या symptoms होते हैं?
Exercise intolerance is number one. And due to RV systolic, main RV systolic shorter, and some patients may have RV systolic also. So they have this one, failure features like dyspnea है.
Failure क्यों होगा?
अगर LV dysfunction आएगा तो तब failure आएगा सर.
10 years पे क्यों LV dysfunction आ जाएगा उसको? तो full repair हुआ है उसका.
सर?
10 years पे क्यों 10 years की एज पे LV dysfunction क्यों हो जाएगा उसको? Post ICR में.
नहीं फ्यूचर इतने दिक्कत इंटरवेंशनल डिपेंडेंस में आएगा. because main exercise intolerance देखेंगे सर. And there is and then sinuses है नहीं होता कि residual shunting कहीं से नहीं हो रहा है. Any residual shunting तो नहीं हो रहा है.
ठीक है अच्छा.
And RV नंबर 1 तो इसीलिए देखेंगे तो क्यूरा सैचुरेशन कितना है इसका.
और क्या देखेंगे?
और एको में तो RV वॉल्यूम एंड RV फंक्शन एंड इसका
RV वॉल्यूम कैसे एस्टिमेट करते हैं इको पे? अच्छा और क्या देखेंगे इको पे?
And then gradient across the RVOT and the TR is present or not is है तो कितना significant है and PR का significance कितना PR है तो moderate है moderate severe है.
How do you see for severity of PR on echo?
एक तो रिकर्जेंट वॉल्यूम देखेंगे सर कितना वॉल्यूम आ रहा है.
कैसे वॉल्यूम कैलकुलेट करते हैं इको पे?
फेस करते हैं
क्यों कराते हैं? छोड़ देते हैं.
फेस करते हैं जेट वो होता है ना सर.
क्या लिमिटेशन है इको का? और इको पे वॉल्यूम क्यों नहीं आएंगे एक्यूरेट?
एंडोकार्डियम वेरिएशन
कैसा है? आरवी कैसा स्ट्रक्चर है? 2 dimensional.
Yeah, RV
This is-
is a
triangular, actually conical basically.
हाँ मोहित was telling something.
so basically क्या होता है ना कि we have to do it is given कि how to follow up a top surgery patient. So up to 10 years of age we do echocardiography and MRI we are doing once in every 3 years because we don't get exact volumes by MRI. Whatever severity of PR is we can see we have to see for regurgitant fraction more than 25% तो नहीं है on MRI. And we have to see for RV EDV, RV ESC, RV ejection fraction. Echo से we can just see anatomical structure like कोई free PR तो नहीं है, कोई RVOT aneurysm तो नहीं है,
कोई रेसिडुअल VSD तो नहीं है,
कोई रेसिडुअल PS या रेसिडुअल VSD तो नहीं है,
पल्मोनरी आर्टरीज का स्ट्रेस कैसा है, इसमें एलपी प्लास्टिक होता है जैसे मैं सिनेरियो दिया, वहां पर तो कोई ग्रेडियंट नहीं है, उसके जिसके लिए उसको बलूनिंग चाहिए हो, ठीक है, तो वो सब चीजें देखेगा। फिर ईसीजी पे क्यूआरएस ड्यूरेशन का इंपॉर्टेंस पता है, ईसीजी देखेगा,
इसी देखेंगे। और सिम्टम्स का भी ऐसे ही है, सिम्टम्स भी पीआर ही होने चाहिए, मतलब सिम्टम्स बाकी ऐसा नहीं।
यूजुअली तक आरवी बहुत कंप्लायंट चेंबर्स होते हैं, जैसे कि सब जगह पढ़ रहे हैं एएससी बेएससी में, तो आरवी भी बहुत कंप्लायंट होता है। यूजुअली 3 to 4 डिकेड्स तक काफी लोगों को सिम्टम्स नहीं आते, ठीक है। बहुत सारे अगर जिनका आरवी अच्छा टॉलरेट करते रहता है, आरवी कम डायलेट होता रहता है, फिर एक पॉइंट पे जाके जब वो नहीं झेल पाता तब फेल होने लगता है, यूजुअली तब सिम्टम्स होते हैं। लेकिन पूछना है बियॉन्ड 10 to 15 ईयर्स में यूजुअली जिनको अगर ट्रांसमिशन पैच हुआ है तो प्रोग्रेसिवली पीआर से ईच चाइल्ड बिहेव्स डिफरेंटली, 8% दैट वे।
एंड इसके भी गाइडलाइन है, पता है हाउ टू फॉलो अप टॉप सर्जरी सभी
ये सर गाइडेंस है पर प्रोटीन फॉलोअप कैसे करेंगे। तो इसमें एक्चुअली 4 स्टेज डिवाइड किया था, स्टेज ए बी सी डी। उसमें एक्चुअली स्टेज बी स्टेज ए में एनएचए क्लास फंक्शन 1 एंड विद नो हेमोडायनामिक सरेंडर विद सीक्रेट with no arrhythmias and normal exercise and with normal hepatic condition. Class 2 में मतलब class B में NHA class 2 symptoms with the mild hemolytic sequelae, that is either mild aortic enlargement or mild ventral enlargement or mild valvular disease, trivial or small shunt which is not significant, or arrhythmia that is not require any treatment, and abnormal cardiac limitation of the limitation to exercise. And in physiological stage C में functional NHA class functional class 3 symptoms, that is significant moderate or greater valvular disease, moderate or greater ventral dysfunction.
ये जनरल है कि दिस इज फॉर पोस्ट ऑफ ओनली?
ये जनरल वाला, इस पे कोई भी हो सकता है।
क्लासिफिकेशन हो गया ना।
दिस इज पोस्ट ऑफ पेशेंट फॉर एनी कंजेनिटल हार्ट डिजीज पेशेंट के लिए।
आप फिजियोलॉजिकल पूछ रहे हो,
फिजियोलॉजिकल स्टेज पेशेंट कैसे डिसाइड करेंगे? सो इट शुड बी एनी वन ऑफ द प्रेजेंट ऑफ इसमें, सो इट कम्स ऑन दैट फिजियोलॉजिकल स्टेज। So मतलब if any moderate enlargement of aortic enlargement, if any patient with high fracture class 3 है, so that comes under phase, मतलब any one of them should be present, so that can become that physiological stage.
So you just remember this thing, इसको मत याद कर, you won't be able to ऐसे remember so much. तो ये याद रखो केवल कि if patient is asymptomatic, you will only do one yearly echo, ठीक है, just to see कि बाकी सब ठीक है कि नहीं।
Consultation
and the moment you are suspecting in adult patient, you will do MRI once in 3 years to see whether कोई volume का issue तो नहीं है, and you will keep following the patient by
echo 24 hours, echo 2 years लिखा है इसमें, फिर स्टेज ए में echo 2 years लिखा है, and फिर स्टेज बी में 1 year to 2 years.
So you also read up Indian guidelines, they clearly say 1 to 2 years, okay. और हमारे यहाँ भी मेरे हिसाब से सर, मैंने जो ओपीडी देखी है सर 1 साल बाद ही बुलाते हैं।
हाँ, वो तो फॉलो अप
आउट पेशेंट तो 1 year होगा, 1 year to 2 years, पर एको लिखा है तो 2 years है, पर ये फिजियोलॉजिकल स्टेज है। मतलब ये तो ये 2018 में गाइडलाइंस है एच का।
ठीक है, ठीक है।
एक चीज और वो रूट ऐसे योर रोल ऑफ ओरोडेंटल हाइजीन एंड वो सब समझाना है, ठीक है ना?
हाँ, आफ्टर टॉक पे बोलना है। हाँ,
तो बेसिकली मैं ये बता रहा हूँ, पेशेंट इसका आरवी वाले एंडाशी वाले मोर देन 160 to 180 मिलीसेकंड, सॉरी ml per minute. So in those patients we consider a pulmonary replacement, and However, these thresholds are somewhat arbitrary because since the MRI methods for measuring RV volumes are not standardized, and studies from which these cutoffs are drawn or include less than 100 patients, and no study has shown that clinical outcomes are worse in patients who have RV volumes failed to normalize after pulmonary pump replacement. So, given the evidence that prolonged QRS duration increases the risk of life-threatening arrhythmias and cardiac death late after top repair, most centers consider a QRS duration more than 180 seconds, or one that is rapidly increasing as an indication for pulmonary replacement. The studies show that the pulmonary replacement should reduce the QRS duration in association with reduction in RV size. Main RV size is important for the QRS duration. And then the pulmonary replacement also reduces the incidence of arrhythmias because reduction in QRS size. However, most studies included some patients who underwent electrophysiological ablation along with PVR. So we can't say either because of due to electrophysiological ablation or due to PVR because of which we have this benefit. So we can say that certainly the patient who underwent both PVR and ablation, so they have a more survival and they're more ultimate free, especially against pseudoventricular tachycardia are less in these patients.
Taljiva says that actually PVR usually causes improvement in the functional status, improves the RV and diastolic and systolic volumes, global RV functions, TR, but effects on QRS duration and arrhythmias are usually inconsistent.
ये बताओ QRS duration improve होती है RV volume जब कम
In fact, there is a
calculation
में मैंने बोला था there is no difference on VT or death.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. arrhythmia propensity और QRS duration पे inconsistent results हैं कि मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि सब केसेस में it decreases.
Only if the ये ask कि क्या होता है तो only RV volumes decrease and RVOT size is reduced. That's it.
And functional status usually improves.
Yeah, functional status improves, but there is no difference in VT or death.
Yeah, that's why I was saying. Arrhythmia propensity QRS duration पे inconsistently है. टालजीवा वाले में भी यही लिखा हुआ है.
So the coming to ventricular interactions and the fate of left ventricle, the patient who underwent a top repair and has a late LV dysfunction is a risk factor for sudden cardiac death. So in a study using MRI in a group of 70 adult patients with top, the prolonged QRS duration was able to increase in size.
Okay, you tell what is Burnham and what is reverse Burnham.
Septal pushing.
So where it is, when it is pushing, where it's burning, where it's pushing, where it's burning.
Basically, what happens is basically this septal movement depends upon the right or left ventricle end-diastolic pressures. So जिसमें pressure ज़्यादा है, for example, right ventricle pressure ज़्यादा है.
Also volume. You cannot just say pressure. अब ये next question है, how will you differentiate on pressure overload and volume overload situation on the basis of movement of septum?
So ये जब okay end-diastolic volume, sorry end-diastolic pressure ज़्यादा है, so it will push the septum. इसका तो ये लिखा है, it will push the septum to the other side. During
so Gaurav sir may correct me that whenever the septal shift occurs only in diastole, it is usually volume overload situation. When it occurs both in systole and diastole, it's a pressure overload situation. True. When this happens on the left side of the heart, then it is burning effect, like in patient of AS, severe AS, HOCS, something like that.
And in post-op top, it is reverse burning. Yeah,
it is reverse. In cases of PH, in the severe PH.
So in post-op top, it's the reverse burning. Usually, the RV volume overload it tends to shift the septum towards the LV. So it decreases the leftward shift of the LV pressure volume loop and decreases in the LV operating volumes.
Yeah. So left side cardiac output also decreases.
Yeah.
And then QRS duration is also associated with heterogeneous LV contraction, presumably by inducing RVV and some other causes in combination with RV dysfunction, LV dysynchrony, and adverse LV mechanisms may explain the link between QRS duration and adverse clinical outcomes. Although the RV mechanisms relate to functional status and late after repair, the moderate or severe LV impairment might get to be strongest determinant other clinical symptoms.
One thing to add more, you told na that transcatheter pulmonary valve replacement previously it was reserved for previously conduits or the artificial tube was only was there, but now valves are available that we can do it in the native RVOT also. In fact, with the one which we do last year, that was done in the native RVOT. That was a venous P valve. They mentioned Melody valve and Edward Sapiens in the MOS, but venous P valve is one of the Chinese valve. Okay, that can be used in larger RVOTs. Because native RVOTs can go even up to 35 mm or so. Those sizes were not available with the Melody. So it can be done in native RVOTs also.
सर इसमें कुछ हाइब्रिड प्रोसीजर भी कर सकते हैं ना?
हाइब्रिड भी कर सकते हैं, लेकिन यूजुअली ट्रांसलेटर
मिनी थेरेक्टोमी कर दो, एक पीए को इंसाइज कर दो एंड देन एक स्टेंट डाल दो.
हाँ कर सकते हैं करेक्ट. इनफैक्ट पीपल आर डूइंग नाउ mitral also. mitral है, ट्राइकस्पिड रीजन पे भी यूज कर रहे हैं काफी सारे वॉल्व. जो एक माई वॉल्व है वो इंडियन वॉल्व है, अभी अपोलो में भी हुआ है.
वो तो बेसिकली तावी के लिए है.
हाँ उन्होंने लेकिन ट्राइकस्पिड पे भी यूज करा है वो.
ट्राइकस्पिड पे जो ओरिजिनली डिस्क्राइब्ड है वो तो फिर अलग तरह का वाल्व है ना, कि एक आपका आरवीओटी पे लगा देंगे, एक इनफ्लो पे लगा देंगे.
चल इसे खत्म करने दो.
Sir, basically right and left ventricles share the common myocardial strands and interval septum and the pericardia. So any process that affecting the right ventricle may also impact the left ventricle also. This is called a ventricular interaction. And the blood is moved to the lungs by RV, and which is becomes the LV preload. So any problems such as pulmonary stenosis or regurgitation, so that will decrease the LV preload and decrease the cardiac output. And furthermore, change in shape and size of RV will alter the shape and size of the LV also. So even in a healthy patients, the filling of one ventricle influences the compliance of and filling of the other ventricle. So that is the diastolic ventricular interaction. So this is what is a transeptal pressure gradient that determines the position of the ventricle in the transeptal. Thus, if the RV endoscopic pressure is higher than LV endoscopic pressure, then that is occurs with the RV volume or pressure already occurs. The septum flattens at the end diastole and move towards the LV cavity, affecting the LV filling. In subsequent systole, when the initial movement of the septum is back towards the neutral position, that is towards right, and this creates the paradoxical septal motion. इसमें तो दोनों लिखा है, RV वॉल्यूम एंड प्रेशर ओवर दोनों लिखा है इसमें.
हाँ ओवर टाइम तो फिर हो गई थी, कोई मैं कह रहा हूँ ना, इनिशियली तो आरबी कंप्लायंट चेंबर्स ना, तो ओवर टाइम जब आरबी डिस्फंक्शन हो जाएगा तो आरबी ईडीज बढ़ने लग जाएंगे. लेटेस्ट स्टेज में जाके तो आरबी ईडीज बढ़ने लग जाएंगे ना, तब फिर वो आरबी डिस्फंक्शन और उसमें जाने लग जाएगा.
The ventral interactions. So this ventral interaction, that is both systolic and diastolic, are certainly relevant to post-operative pathophysiology of patients with repair top as evidence of strong post-operation between right ventricular interaction and left ventricular interaction. So in patients with impaired left ventricular interaction and severe PR, the demonstrable improvements in left ventricular interaction are seen after pulmonary valve replacement, supporting the concept that adverse ventricular interaction may be reversible. So the one is the abnormal coronary artery anatomy, prolonged periods of deep cyanosis, LV volume overloading as a result of palliative shunting may cause LV hypoxic or ischemic damage. So this also can reduce LV. Apart from that, they have observed that there are three independent predictors for reduced LV measured by MRI at the mean 24 years of after the complete follow-up of repair. So those three are, one is reduced infection and the duration of palliation before repair and aortic regurgitation. These three may enter the LVEF. Coming to aortic root, usually in fetus the top diameter of the ascending aorta is usually normal for the gestation rate, but as the time progresses, the serial measurement reveals that accelerated growth during fetal life, particularly those with most severe right ventral output obstruction. So by the time of birth, the ascending aorta in infants with top is not just increased to size of the rectal artery, but its absolute diameter is also increased. So this is special that this enlargement occurs as a result of increased volume overload and developing aorta. However, there is also aortic root histologic and elastic abnormalities also in these patients, and these also seem to play a role. And the most frequent issue in this patient is aortic insufficiency, and the patient with the incidence of with more than mild aortic regurgitation is 6.6% after the patient having 3 years of repair, and occasionally these patients may require aortic wall replacement. So there are case reports of aortic dissection in patients with the top with the severe aortic dilation, but this is extremely rare. So in a study conducted in 2010 by Francis et al., so they have reported the serial aortic root measurements adjusted for body surface area in 88 children who underwent TOP at a median age of 7 months. So the all aortic root measurements were analyzed at the time of repair, but within 7 years the annulus and the sinotubular Z scores have returned to normal, and the aortic sinus measurement shows significant regression. So they suggest that early repair might prevent aortic dilatation.
So this is an important thing. Na? You have to remember this figure 6.6% which you mentioned na? For example. And also one more figure that it can be more than 40 mm in adults in almost as much as 30% of the cases. So usually in our case, we get patients who are adult tops or maybe adolescent tops in our exam case. And all this is distal. This is a problem with adult tops.
Coming to other issues in adult life, one is the timing of pulmonary valve replacement. So I will tell the guidelines for the pulmonary valve replacement methods.
We have discussed it.
After monitoring after pulmonary valve replacement, so since there is an artificial valve, this doesn't have any indefinite lifespan. So patient may require pulmonary valve replacement again after surgery also. Mainly because of the development of PANAS in the PANAS at the site of the pulmonary wall. So the patient requires regular every 1 to 2 years of echocardiogram to monitor the function of their neobioplastic or RV to PA conduit. So they become significant stenosis or regurgitation. Surgical valve test can often replace them non-surgically with the previous. We can use percutaneous implanted valve providing support to the new wall. Sometimes metallic wall can be used for pulmonary replacement. And if it is done, so patient require anticoagulation and INR monitoring. As such,
which wall will you choose usually? A prosthetic, bioprosthetic or a metallic?
Bioprosthetic usually choose.
So why would you even choose the metallic valve here? There is very high chance of thrombus formation na, if you choose a metallic valve. The low pressure circuit.
Rarely he has told.
Rarely chosen. So coming to anacarditis, as such, anacarditis is very rare after the top repair. So, but the patient should be he should be counseled regarding the importance of anacarditis and should maintain engaged to maintain excellent oral hygiene. So, in general, antibiotics is only recommended for those patients who have conduits or prosthetic wounds.
For how many months?
For this one,
for prosthetic valves, always for conduits?
3 months. Prophylaxis.
Shall next.
Coming to contraception and pregnancy after tetralogy of Fallot. So the female adolescent should be they should be explained regarding the contraception and pregnancy, and they should while during pregnancy and delivery. Coming to recommendations for an adult top patient. The CMR is used to quantify the vector size and function and pulmonary wall function and pulmonary artery anatomy and left heart abnormalities in patient with the repaired top. So this is CMR is a class 1 indication for diagnostic purpose. And coronary artery compression testing is indicated before right ventricle to pulmonary artery conduit stenting or transcatheter valve placement in a repaired top. This is also a class 1 indication. There is a patient who has a programmed ventricular stimulation, and this programmed ventricular stimulation can be done in patient who has a top and additional distractions for cardiac death. And this is a class 2A indication. And a patient with repaired top and cardiac catheterization angiography, if indicated, is reasonable to assess the hemodynamics when adequate data cannot be obtained non-invasively in setting of an arrhythmia or heart failure or expired ventricular dysfunction or suspected pulmonary hypertension or cyanosis. These are the class 2A indication. Coming to therapeutic, so the pulmonary valve replacement for the relief of symptoms is the class 1 indication.
इसका
And
कोड AHS लिया है ये मामसी
the age. And pulmonary valve replacement as a surgical prognosis is reasonable for the preservation of ventricular size and function in asymptomatic patients with a repaired top and ventricular enlargement or dysfunction with a moderate or greater PR. This is a class 2A. And the ICD for primary prevention with the multiple discharge of sudden cardiac death is class 2A. And the surgical pulmonary valve replacement in a patients with top with a moderate or greater PR and who are going for other surgical interventions. So in those patients, we can do pulmonary valve replacement, that is class 2B indication. And pulmonary valve replacement, in addition to arrhythmia management, may be considered in adults with repaired top and moderate or greater PR and ventricular tachyarrhythmias. These are the class 2B indication. So ये तो पर आपने पहले बोला था कि PVR से arrhythmias का ज़्यादा यूज नहीं होगा arrhythmias में.
के बाद sorry I was saying कि indication में तो है देखो but it was being seen that usually doesn't causes मतलब inconsistent results है बहुत उस पे कि arrhythmia की propensity QRS duration वगैरह पे
नहीं पेपर में क्लियरली लिखा है या
ठीक है this one you discuss
ये डिस्कस कर दिया and patient who with PA conduit in those patients the coronary artery compression testing with simultaneous coronary angiography and high pressure balloon dilatation in the conduit is indicated before right ventricle to coronary artery conduit stenting or transcatheter valve placement. So this is a class 1 indication with angiography. And in patients with a stented right ventricle coronary artery conduits and a worsening of pulmonary stenosis or pulmonary resuscitation, the evaluation of conduit complications should be performed using fluoroscopy to evaluate as a stent fracture, and we should send blood culture for infected endocarditis. So this is also a class 1 indication. And adults with right ventricular pulmonary conduit and arrhythmias and congestive heart failure and unexplained ventricular dysfunction or cyanosis, cardiac catheterization is reasonable to assess the hemodynamics. That is class 2A indication. If there is a right ventricular pulmonary artery conduit intervention is reasonable for adults with right ventricular artery conduit and moderate or greater PR or moderate or greater stenosis with reduced functional capacity or arrhythmias. This is the class 2A indication. And patient with conduit with severe chest stenosis or severe regurgitation with reduced RV engine fraction or RV dilatation. This is the class 2B indication. Coming to follow-up of these patients, conduit may almost same as in case of physiological stage EMA. So this may and in physiological stage B will be same है, but ये वाली है सर जिसका stage C stage B में they are earlier testing CMR and excess testing. This should be done earlier.
ठीक है मोस्ट कॉमनली कमर्शियल लेवल कंड्यूट कौन सा आता है यूज करते हैं
PTFE usually हम use करते हैं
कॉन्टेग्रा के नाम से आता है, ठीक है। कॉन्टेग्रा इज अ बोवाइन इंटरनल जुगुलर वेन व्हिच इज बीइंग यूज्ड। हेलो,
हाँ सर ठीक, चलो ठीक है, थैंक यू सर।
ठीक है, ओके।
थैंक यू
ठीक
सर।
है, वहां से एक को चार्ट बना के भेजना है।